Let's start in Ukraine, where the fears of a nuclear disaster are growing every day. In focus is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It is the largest nuclear plant in Europe. For the last 2 weeks, Zaporizhzhia has been at grave risk. There has been fresh shelling close to the nuclear power plant. Both Ukraine and Russia are blaming each other, and the United Nations nuclear watchdog has warned of a nuclear disaster. Ukrainian President Zelensky says it will be a catastrophe that will impact the whole of Europe.
Any radiation incident at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant can be a blow to the countries of the European Union, and to Turkey, and to Georgia, and to countries from more distant regions. Everything depends only on the direction and strength of the wind.
The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is home to 6 reactors. As of July 22nd, just 2 of its reactors were operating. Zaporizhzhia provides over a fifth of the total electricity generated in Ukraine. The plant has been on Russia's radar since the beginning of the invasion. In early March, Russian troops seized control of the plant. Special Russian military units guard the facility. However, Ukrainian staff continue to operate it. So clearly, there's a lot of tension. The United Nations nuclear watchdog says the staff is operating under stressful conditions. That is, operating under stressful conditions. So if there is a nuclear accident, no one knows who will deal with it. Will it be the Russian advisors or the Ukrainian staff? In March, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was struck, but there was no radiation leak. The reactors too were intact. However, both Russia and Ukraine blamed each other for the strike. But since July, the plant remains near the front line. It has been hit by shells multiple times in recent weeks. The repeated strikes have prompted the United Nations to call for a demilitarized zone. Russia says it will facilitate a UN nuclear watchdog visit to the plant, but says it is too dangerous for the Iaea to go through to Kyiv. On the other hand, the United Nations says it can facilitate the Iaea visit if both Russia and Ukraine agree. NATO too has called for an urgent need to inspect Ukraine nuclear power plant. Currently, there are 2 major risks. The continuous shelling could damage the plant, but it is unlikely that it will affect the nuclear reactor. The reactor is well protected. It has a powerful body with a reinforced concrete shell. But what it could affect is the reactor's cooling system. This could lead to a severe accident like the one saw in Fukushima. So obviously Ukraine is concerned. Ukrainian authorities in Zaporizhzhia are holding nuclear disaster response drills.
Of course we are concerned, that's for sure, and that is the situation. We see that the situation from the when they start sharing from the 5th of August, it's changed dramatically. And of course we are concerned. That's why we are here. That's why we created this group. That's why we are involved in everyday communication with this. And we speak to our international partners also. That, of course, we are concerned.
Both Russia and Ukraine know the danger of militarizing a nuclear plant or compromising the safety of a reactor. In fact, Zaporizhzhia is located just 500 kilometers from Chernobyl, the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster. The new strikes are raising fears of yet another nuclear catastrophe.
You cannot just close the eyes and say that if you see the military there, if you see the weapon, and of course it's directly influenced the safety of nuclear material at this station. And that's what we want to see. And of course we understand that from the other hand, they need to give some technical estimation on what is happening, because we just have not concrete information what is inside.
Kyiv reported unprecedented cyber attack on its nuclear energy agency's website. Tuesday's attack was the most powerful cyber attack against the website since the start of the Ukraine war. Energoatom says it was conducted from Russian territory. This comes as UN Chief Guterres will meet with the leaders of Ukraine and Turkey this week. Mark William Bishop is a freelance reporter near Mykolaiv, Ukraine, and he has some insights for us today. Mark William, welcome to WION. What is the current situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant?
Well, Eric, it's not entirely clear, would be the short answer to that question. Russian military forces are in control of the nuclear power plant. However, the Ukrainian workers that operate the plant, they are still continuing to go to work. They're still continuing to maintain the plant and ensure its safe operation. This is one of the largest power plants in the world. It's the largest in Europe, and it is a key location for the generation of power across Ukraine. The last time that it was taken offline was shortly after the Russian annexation of Crimea in 2014. That resulted in rolling blackouts across Ukraine. So it's quite key and central to power generation in this region.
Mark, how bad is the situation? Because Ukraine's President Zelensky has once again called for international action to avert a catastrophe at the nuclear facility.
It's not that bad now, but when you're talking about a nuclear power plant, of course, the concern is that it could become quite bad quite quickly. As you know, Ukraine was already the scene of one of the worst nuclear accidents in human history. That was in 1986 at Chernobyl. The fallout from that had widespread impact across Europe. Chernobyl is still the scene of an exclusion zone where people can't live and will not be able to live for potentially hundreds of years to come. So there is a major concern, obviously, when you talk about mixing nuclear reactors and high explosives, military-grade weapons. The possibility that there could be a catastrophic failure is real. And I think that is why so many actors in the international community are now concerned about what is happening in this location. So it's also been the strategy of the Ukrainian government to try to get more international actors involved in this conflict. And so, of course, that is also part of the reason why they are reaching out to the Iaea, the International Atomic Energy Agency, as well as the United Nations for assistance in dealing with this issue.
Mark, what is your view over the blame game between Moscow and Kyiv on who actually shelled the plant?
If Russian troops are occupying this nuclear power plant, it would make little sense for the Ukrainians to shell the facility in order to try to liberate it. Meanwhile, why the Russians would shell a facility that they are controlling also makes little sense from a strategic or tactical standpoint. But you have to remember there's a very intensive propaganda and information war being conducted by both Ukraine and Russia on social media platforms, through traditional news outlets. So each side is working to shape the narrative to their advantage, and it could be that is what this is part of. We simply don't have enough details about what exactly has happened or the nature of this shelling, the origin of it, to really make any kind of clear assessment at this point.
Mark, finally, will the anticipated visit by the United Nations and IAEA chiefs have any impact or possibly cool down the tempest?
I think that's certainly the hope of any responsible party that's looking at events around this nuclear power plant. Unfortunately, international organizations like the United Nations, they've not proven to be particularly effective in this conflict. But there are some signs of hope, because there have been some isolated incidents in which the UN was able to achieve limited evacuations of non-combatants in key areas, for example. But it's worth remembering this is a critical situation. Demilitarizing an area around the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, that would solve this immediate issue. It wouldn't address the bigger concern of the war and the bigger issues. Threats of nuclear force, threats of nuclear terrorism, they have been a constant backdrop to this conflict. And the only way to end that threat is to end the war. Unfortunately, that does not appear to be something that's likely to happen in the next few months.
Mark William Bishop, thank you very much for making time and for talking to WION today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.